I actually started to coach kids as a senior in high school. I started running football camps and then was doing the strength and conditioning for the school. That was sort of the impetus, I guess, to become a trainer, gym owner, etc. Eventually, it went from like, oh, you're growing stuff in Minnesota in this like tiny little basement corner of a powerlifting gym. If you're growing stuff there, like maybe you can grow stuff for our gym. And that's kind of where it became a thing in terms of like helping other gyms with their growth marketing. So what inspired you to become a gym owner and eventually focus on helping other gyms grow? I think I answered a good chunk of this in the first like super long-winded answer. Basically, like I was an athlete first, and to go way back in the Wayback Machine, I was a freshman in high school, and from the age of about 5 or 6 years old, like in kindergarten, I was the kid that was always going to go to the NFL, and I never changed. What are you going to be when you grow up? What are you going to be when you grow up? It's like, I'm going to the NFL. And to be totally honest and transparent with you, I probably did not let that dream die early enough. I was probably 21 or 22 until I saw the writing on the wall as a senior in college. I was like, yeah, maybe this shit won't work out. But I was super driven and super hard worker. And so freshman year in high school in this really small town, I had a key to the weight room because the coaches got tired of waiting for me to get done working out. And I was like slower than my lineman and a pudgy, super slow white dude. And by the end of, I went from being slower than the lineman and a super scrub. I was like an all-state quarterback in Texas and led the team to their first, playoff run. Like it's the only playoff wins in school history, all that fun stuff. And so the weight room had a huge impact on me. And I actually started to coach kids and kind of capitalize on the like big fish, small pond syndrome as a senior in high school. I started running football camps and then was, doing the strength and conditioning for the school when I'd come back home from the summers from college, all that fun stuff. And so it was like, oh, I'm going to train athletes and that's going to be my thing. And that was sort of the impetus, I guess, to become a trainer, gym owner, etc. And then again, eventually it went from like, oh, you're growing stuff in Minnesota in this like tiny little basement corner of a powerlifting gym with a bunch of big old gross like 400-pound dudes, and the bathrooms did not even have ceilings on them. So it was just like drywall, and you could walk past and go down these like shitty moldy stairs and hear and smell everything. And it's like, oh, if you're growing stuff there, like maybe you can grow stuff for our gym that's not a shithole. And that's kind of where it became a thing in terms of like helping other gyms with their growth, marketing, so on and so forth. And that was kind of the initial story. And then when I kind of grew in that mastermind group and started coaching other gym owners, like, I feel like I'm kind of good at this. I feel like I might be better at this than I am, training athletes and things like that. And then eventually, right, all the issues with my son and whatnot, it was, oh, okay, well, this is something we can do remotely, and you're probably better at this than you are at running gyms. And let's see how this marketing stuff does before you decide to open a gym in San Antonio where we moved back to. And we kind of never looked back at this point. We did the memberships, we did the vision thing. This is a fun one. As a husband and dad, how do you balance the demands of running a business with your personal life? So this is funny because I actually tried to film this the other day and the framing was all off on the video and I had to redo it. But as I was filming the last one, my wife comes up because I think one of the next questions is like, oh, what's a typical day in your life, right? How do you stay motivated and productive? This is not what's your morning routine? Well, I wake up at 3:32 a.m. on the dot every single morning. My wife and I go and we do a walking joint meditation where we will align our chakras and blah 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 alien energies and fucking whatever the fucks, and then I will do a 3-hour infrared sauna with my red light glasses and my blue light and then I'm going to biohack for this period of time, and I have 3 bites of 3 licks of a dried prune in the morning. Those are my carbs, and I have 800 grams of protein, and then at about 11 a.m. I will start my work day. I will have a focused work block. No. That's not, I got 3 kids, man. They're 6, 4 and 1, and literally as I was filming this the first time, my wife walks up. She was feeling sick. And she's like, so Ella, our daughter, just threw up at daycare. And so we got to go to I got to go pick up the kids because wifey was sick. And I was in the middle of filming. It was still like in the middle of what would be my work day, right? And so how do you balance it? Like, dude, I think you just do the best you can is the reality. And, throw your crazy morning routines and everything else out the window, like when we were in the diaper stage with baby boy, right? And this is, we got a 15-month-old right now. And so it's like, yeah, my morning routine is I'm going to wake up when the baby does and hopefully not get pissed on and get shit all over my hands and everything else. And I'm going to try to grab a sliver of sleep if it's, 4 a.m. Sometimes you're just going to wake up and do the work because you're too awake to go back to sleep and get what you can done when you can. But that's the reality of the situation. I think when you are a parent doing this entrepreneur stuff, and how do I balance it? I don't know that I do an incredible job balancing it. What I try to do is I'm going to try to have hats, and I've got times where I know stuff has to turn off for at least a sliver of time when the kids are up. So the nicest thing we do have right now in terms of like the kids' routines and stuff is we've got like that nighttime routine for them is on stinking point. Like given they're not sick and puking all over themselves and everything else. And so I know that from, whatever it is, let's say the hours of 5:30 to 7:30, I am in full on dad mode, right? And if there's stuff that needs to get done late that didn't get done during the day or whatever it is, that's cool. But like, I'm in dad mode for, at minimum those hours. And from a perspective taking aspect of things, I heard this and I just saw the video again today. I think it was Peter Attia. And he says, yeah, just like picture, he got this advice. He says, picture being 80 years old and I think he was telling a story about his boys being feral was the quote, right? He's got 2 boys and they're crazy. And as a dad with 2 boys and a crazy little girl, like I fucking get it. We're like, your kids are going to be fucking crazy, right? And there's going to be times where they piss you off and they frustrate you and whatever else. But if you're 80 years old and you're on your freaking deathbed, and the only moment you got was like that moment where the kids are pissing you off again when they're 6 and whatever it is, like you would trade anything at that point in your life to go back. Like that's the only moment you have. You would trade anything to go back to that moment. I'm trying not to get all fucking emotional on you, but the reality is I try, and I'm not perfect at this by any means, but I do try to get that to take moments where it's like, oh, I'm rocking, like we're done with 3, I think. And I'm rocking my son to sleep, my 15-month-old. And it's like, all right, like, this could be the last time that you rock him to bed. Like at some point, he's going to be a 6-year-old. And my 6-year-old still gives me hugs and kisses and all that shit, right? But like, you're not rocking your 6-year-old to bed. So at some point, there's going to be a last time that you pick up your kid and swing him around and give him a hug. At some point, there's going to be a last time that you throw your kids up in the pool, right? And have them come splashing down. They say, throw me again, Daddy. And you're like tired and you're sore or whatever. You're sleepy. Like, dude, I just want to go to... Nah, man, throw your freaking kid. Throw your kid in the pool, assuming they can swim and all that other shit. And so I try to take perspective and like cherish those little moments where it's like, oh, I need to get back to work. And I'm putting my daughter to bed and she says, snuggle, Daddy, right? And I'm going to, you know what, damn it, I'm going to get in the fucking bed and I'm going to snuggle with my daughter. And she says 10 seconds. And I'm like, you take all the time you need, maybe. Right? Like you take all the time you need. And so I try to keep perspective on those things and kind of cherish the little moments. And when we go to karate or whatever it is, like I'm not going to be the parent on my phone or my laptop when my kids are at karate or they're at swim school or whatever. Like I want to be the present parent that watches those things because at some point, man, like those moments are going to be gone. And I'm thankful to, I think, have a little bit of that perspective and to be thinking about that a little bit as I'm going through this journey as a dad, husband, etc. Because the reality is like I don't know that in 30 years are the kids going to care that dad grew XYZ business. Well, maybe, but they're really going to care if their dad like gave a shit and if their dad was at games and so on and so forth. And so I try to keep that perspective. On the husband side, that's probably where I do my worst job. My wife would attest. And the only thing I have there is to, hey, try to have date nights. Try to have times where you've got your different hats. And sometimes it's helpful. I can't wear hats because my fucking eyebrows and my face are weird or whatever. But I try to wear metaphorical hats where, okay, if I've got my work hat on, like I've got to be work hat. And if I've got my dad hat on, I got to be dad hat. And if I've got my hubby hat on, we're on a date, whatever, like I don't want to be checking shit. I don't want to be checking Slack while I'm on a date with wifey because those, you don't get a lot of those times. So I think it's try to take perspective and try to be, to whatever extent possible, try to be focused on the hat that you're wearing at that time would be my best advice coming from somebody who, like, I don't have this shit all figured out. Again, typical day in your life, how do you stay motivated and productive? So the productive thing as a dad, hubby, and everything else, it's like, dude, when you put on your business owner hat, like, you got to have your fucking work hat on, right? Like, you've got to go, because you literally have no idea if, as you know, maybe I'll share the last clip where I'm literally here filming, and then wifey walks up, she's like, you need to go get Ella, right? She just puked at daycare, because you don't know when you're going to be called into another, you're going to be tagged in for something else. And so, I think the work time stuff, you've got to have that hat on. From a motivational perspective, how do I stay motivated? I've got I don't know, maybe it's an interesting philosophy, maybe it's not when it comes to motivation. So a lot of people will shit on motivation, like, oh, you shouldn't need to be motivated. Fuck you. You know what? Like, sometimes you need a little motivation, like you need a little activation energy, if you will, to kind of get things moving. And I am agnostic when it comes to motivation and what I will try to do, because at this point, realistically, it's like, the mouths that we have to feed on the team, like, that's all the motivation I need, man. Like, I've got to take care of these people that are trusting their families and their incomes and their families' incomes and their families' lives, right, to me. And so, all of a sudden you've got a team. Well, you can't be I guess you can be, I don't think it'd be very effective, but you can't be the CEO or the owner or whatever it is at the top, the boss man, boss lady, whatever it is, if you will, and be the only one that's not getting your shit done. Like, that's not a good look. And all of a sudden your team's going to figure out it's okay to not get shit done. And so, there's some of it that's like, yeah, you're at a certain point, maybe you don't need motivation, because just like the work needs to get done, and you've got enough people counting on you where if the work doesn't get done, like, there's a big cost to that, not just to you and your business and your life, but to their lives, your team's lives as well. Now, the other thing I'll say is that there are absolutely times when it is harder to get things moving, or you have a bad client experience, someone gets grumpy with you, whatever it is, and it is harder. You feel like you're just getting the shit kicked out of you constantly. Like, that's a thing that still happens, right, to this day. And we're a decent business right now. And sometimes you need a little bit more juice. And so, I think I said I was agnostic when it comes to the sources of motivation. And so I will get motivation from any number of ways. Now, I am someone that I probably need therapy. I am deeply, deeply competitive. I have a deep fear of insecurity, or a deep feeling of insecurity. Like, I don't know if we're good enough, if I'm going to be good enough, or whatever it is. And so, if you combine this, like, deep competitiveness and deep-seated, like, insecurity, I don't know if I'm good enough, I've got to keep getting better, whatever it is, all of a sudden, like, that can make for a pretty powerful motivator. And as an athlete, I always did well with enemies. And so I am someone that, like, folks will talk about, like, light energy, dark energy, whatever. I'm agnostic in that, sometimes I get my motivation from, there's a competitor in our space that literally, like, just blatantly stole our ads. And this isn't a situation where it's like, oh yeah, you had your ad copy in another client's account, and that agency just happened to turn it on because it was those were the ads that were doing well. It's not that type of situation. This is a situation where the folks took the copy, they started running it, they started sharing it to their own mastermind group as their own, not even bothering to change an emoji, start running it in all their other clients' accounts. Like, we get clients from them all the time, and it's like, oh, well, there's our ad again. It's like, they're just complete, like, that's shithead behavior, right? I shouldn't call them pieces of shit, but I do think it's fair to say that that's like piece of shit behavior, right? Take stuff that's not yours and not only use it, but share it to your own mastermind group as your own intellectual property that you came up with and you put together. And then once it's brought to your attention, keep using it, and still don't even bother to change a line of copy. Don't even bother to change an emoji, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I think that's shithead behavior. And, like, that shithead behavior is annoying, but guess what? Like, I know about it and my team knows about it, and we are not, like, I'm a good friend. Dude, I'm an awful enemy. Like, you do not want me as an enemy. And so, like, that's a source of motivation for us. Like, I will not sleep. I shouldn't say that metaphorically, but I will not stop until, that agency is, like, begging for a job. at our company, where we've completely wiped them from the industry. And so I'm really good. I operate well with having enemies and having targets. And at this point, like, that agency is like, oh, they're kind of an afterthought. Well, now let's go over the next dragon, right? Let's go after whatever the next thing is. And in this space, dude, like, there's enough people that are screwing over gym owners where it's like, I don't want to stop until those companies are a thing of the past. And gym owners sitting there, in 10 years, there's two groups. There's groups that work with us that are like, oh my God, I love my life. I love where things are going. Our marketing is incredibly well taken care of. I love the way I've been able to set up my business without screwing over my market, my team, etc. And then there's going to be the folks that didn't work with us. They're going to be wishing they did, And then, so that's like the, partially like the dark energy. Like, I'm a big fan of, hey man, like, enemies can be useful, right? Having targets to go hit and dragons to slay, I think, are useful. I'll also, like, and it's less so now, but yeah, like, if I need to get motivated by selfish reasons for, our income or whatever, I'm not a big car guy or whatever it is, but like, sometimes I'll grab motivation from, like, hey, I want to hit XYZ income this year. And that's cool. Like, take your target. Like, I don't think having personal selfish goals as an entrepreneur is a negative thing. Like, if that's what it takes for you to get up in the morning and go serve your market, right? Because serving your market is going to end up being the thing that ends up serving you. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing to have those selfish targets. Now, at the same time, we will also grab motivation from, light energy, if you will. And those would be things where it's like altruistic goals. So maybe it's something like, hey, I want to contribute XYZ. Like, I want to create this big scholarship fund for my grandma. My grandma was this, like, incredible badass. She was, like, building bombs and shit during World War II. She was a chemistry degree, had a chemistry degree from University of Texas in the 40s, when, like, women weren't really getting degrees all that much. She's just like this incredible badass. And so one of my dreams is I want to create like an entrepreneurship fund, and I want to create a women in science, like, scholarship fund. And so those things are motivating to me. There are things where at this point we were fortunate enough to have a big enough team where, like, I want to make my team wealthy. I want to see those folks I want to completely change the trajectory of the families that have chosen to trust us, right, with their incomes and their lives. And so, if it takes the dark energy and having enemies, that's great. Like, if some days the thing that motivates you more is thinking about, man, I want my team to be able to buy a house, or to be able to, to buy a new car and not have to think about it, to have generational wealth, like, whatever it is, I think those are positive things too. And then again, it doesn't hurt to have those types of motivations, those altruistic motivations for your clients as well. So, at this point, we've been fortunate enough, and I think this is another one of the questions of what fires you up the most about working with gym owners, is we've seen enough of these guys where they come to us, and gals, where they come to us as, like, fucking struggling kids, right? They're the puppy dog that got the shit kicked out of them from all the other, like, from stuff that's happened in the gym industry, COVID, et cetera, from other players in the market, bad gurus, bad coaches, scam artists, et cetera. And when you look at the industry right now, there's companies, I think the biggest company in the space is doing this now, where, they're charging these gym owners, 40, 50K to learn to run these, like, sleazy, slimy, bait and switch, fake free 6-week challenge deals, but they're forcing the gym owners to finance it. And what that means is that if and when the program stops working, because the program's going to stop working, that's just the way it is. Like, you cannot convince me that a fake free, like, a business built on the back of bait and switch marketing is going to be a good thing for your market and your reputation for the long haul. You're not going to be able to convince me of that. If it was such a good thing, then why is nobody at the top of that company keeping their gyms, right? If you look at our leadership, I'm the exception at this point that doesn't have my gyms anymore, and we shut those down for a number of reasons. Number one being my son and all the issues that, I haven't gotten into half of them with him. And, so if you look at the other models that are in the industry, if they were so good, so sustainable, then why aren't the owners just keeping them as investment properties, if you will? Well, the folks on our leadership team, like, that are on our coaching, like our subject matter expert squad, like, they're all continuing to expand their gym operations, right? They might be removing themselves from them, but they're keeping them because they're good, sustainable models. And I feel like I'm tangenting here, but one of the things that I'll tell folks is that, like, I don't care about your 2-week testimonial. right? I don't care about you getting a success story, selling some paid in fulls that's going to cannibalize your cash flow, or running fake free campaigns. It gets me as the agency a good testimonial in the first 4 weeks of you working with us, but they completely in 4 months or in 2 years, whatever it is, like destroys your reputation, because we've heard that story from our people over and over and over as well. Oh, I ran these fake free challenges and it took me 2 years to rebuild my reputation after that. But we don't ask people to do those things that are going to completely destroy their reputation, destroy their business, etc. We care not about the 2 week testimonial. We care about the 2 year or the 2 decade testimonial, right? I want to help people build businesses and lives that they're proud of, not just for the first 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years of working with us, but with the first 2 decades, right, of working with us. And we're getting close to having like probably a couple clients with 10-year anniversaries or whatever. But long story short, we're trying to help people build those businesses and lives that they're proud of, not 2 weeks from now, not 2 months, not 2 years, but 2 decades from now. And we see those stories where folks are building these incredible lives, and they're, getting married in fun places, and they're taking care of their kids, and they're, building their forever home and all those fun things. And those are the things that fire us up, I think, most of all. What are some of your personal interests or hobbies outside the gym? How do they influence your approach to business? Hobbies? You talking about hobbies? Like, my hobbies are my 6'4" and 1-year-old. So there's some funny ones, man. I mean, I you can see behind me probably I got like the Lego shit going on, and that's been fun, right? Trying to find stuff that is. I've done a good job of indoctrinating, particularly our oldest, because he's kind of old enough to get into some of the stuff that I'm into now, where it's like, all right, we're going to start dropping like Ninja Turtle stuff. I got Ninja Turtle books right here on the bed. You can't see. But I'm going to start trying to get my kids right into some of the stuff that I'm into, so I can spend more time with them and still have, some time for some of the fun things I like to do. But I like my Legos now. I've gotten back into those since my son's into them. I used to be really big into video games. I'll still play them from time to time when time allows. I like my athletic stuff. I tore my ACL a year ago playing basketball, literally almost a year to the day. I'm trying to play basketball with 18-year-olds. So, I like my athletic stuff as well. But how do they influence my approach to business? So I think one of my I'm super into like the role playing game type stuff, right? These open world role playing games, and they take too much time to play much of anymore. But I always loved the idea of, and this was helpful in the business sense. But you can in these open world games, you can like run anywhere, right? So I remember playing The Witcher 3, and great game, by the way. And I take off, I don't want to go off the beaten path and kind of see what happens. And you go into these areas where it's like, oh, you are a level 0 Witcher or level 1, whatever the heck it is. And you run into this like scary, it was like a tree with like a deer head thing enemy that's like level 50 and one hit kills you. Or in Skyrim, you run off, you're like, oh, look, here's a giant. I wonder if it's friendly. And then it like steps on you and you literally are flying like hundreds of feet in the air, like one hit kill. It's crazy. And so one of the things that has been helpful in kind of taking some of these like video game parallels is, in these games, these role-playing games, a lot of times like you have these various skills that you need to develop, right, over the course of the game. And initially you run into that giant or whatever, the one hit kills you, sends you hundreds of feet in the air. Well, as you upgrade your attack and your defense or your armor or whatever it is, right, these different things that you can upgrade throughout the course of the game, by the end of the game, you're one hit killing the giant, right? And so when it comes to video games, one of the things that's been helpful for me is like, all right, so what's the giant that you are trying to slay as a business owner, right? What is your next boss level, if you will? And he's all right, well, the next boss level is this, right? It might be a revenue mark, it might be whatever it is for you. And you can sort of say, all right, well, based on whatever that boss level is, what skills, disciplines, habits, systems, etc., do I need to develop as a leader, as an entrepreneur, as a founder, whatever it is, to then be able to one hit kill, right, whatever that boss level is. And so, for me in the kind of the process, the state that we are, stage, I guess may be a better word, for the stage that we're at as a business right now, it's, man, I really need to figure out how to develop leaders within our team, because I know how to scale gyms. Like, I've had multiple gyms myself, right? Did very well for a long time, so on and so forth. I know how to scale gyms like real easy, but in terms of scaling an agency, a coaching company, whatever you want to call it, like that's tougher. Like I don't necessarily have all the answers for that at this point. And so, what power-ups do I need to go find? What skills do I need to be able to develop to be able to achieve whatever that next milestone is. And so for me, it's, leadership and developing leaders, and there might be hiring skills and so on and so forth. And if you're starting off, it may just be like, oh, I need to up level my sales, right? I need to up level my ability to get leads, which, like, you can just pay for that power up, right? Hashtag gym member machine. So, I think there are things that you can kind of pay and outsource. And there are skills, like hard skills, that you need to develop yourself, or that we need to develop ourselves in order to go and conquer sort of the next boss level. So maybe that's a somewhat useful answer in terms of hobbies and stuff. But yeah, dude, you talk about video games and shit. Like, I'm big into the old real time RTSs, right? Real time strategy games. Big Age of Empires 2 fan, like huge. I think I watched there was like this is a 25-year-old game or whatever. I think it was initially came out in like 1999. And there was this huge tournament, like a $50,000 prize pool tournament earlier this year. I think it was like the weekend of the Super Bowl. And so, yeah, I'm watching some of that stuff. I'll watch people play Age of Empires for $50,000 prize pools or whatever. But there you go. That other nerdy shit. Love my Star Wars. Got the kid into Power Rangers. At some point, we'll do a video on like build your marketing Megazord, because over here I've got the fucking Megazord toy from the 90s and shit. And so, yeah, a lot of fun stuff. What advice would I give to gym owners, to aspiring gym owners who want to grow their business without resorting to high pressure tactics? I mean, the number one thing I'd say is, like, there is a better way, and to not think in 10-day or 10-week or 10-month increments, but to think in 10-year increments, because the reality is, for most of these guru types, right? If you watch the landscape of this like guru ecosystem today, dude, if they burn through a market, and I've seen it happen over and over and over at this point, but if they burn through a market, then they can just go and jump into another market, right? Jump into another pool. They go from gyms to, oh, now I'm coaching gyms because I ruined my reputation locally in my local market, to, oh, well, now I'm like a guru for this type of business or that type of business because, like, I kind of like killed my reputation in the gym space. And that is not a super fun thing and not a super doable thing. If you're trying to be a gym owner in your local community, then, dude, we don't ask gym owners to do things that I wouldn't feel comfortable doing in my gyms. And I don't feel comfortable doing things, and I didn't feel comfortable. I don't own gyms anymore, but I don't feel comfortable doing things in my local community. They're going to make me like have that stink of a used car salesman, of the sleazy, like, scammy guy. And so, you think about walking down the grocery store aisle, and you've had, like, your sales conversations are upfront, because I believe good sales is good coaching. If your sales conversations are good coaching conversations, and you genuinely give a shit about the person that's sitting across from you, then you don't have to worry about walking down the grocery aisle and connecting with someone that you just had a consult with. Whereas if you're, like, known as the bait and switch guy in your area, the bait and switch gal in your area, you walk down the grocery store aisle and the person sees you and you're like, oh no, I'm going to go down another aisle and avoid this fucking slimy POS, right? And so the biggest thing I would say is that regardless of what you see in your newsfeed or what people will tell you on these like guru coaching program sales calls, you don't have to do slimy, skeezy, whether it's bait and switch or whether it's high pressure sales or any of those things. You don't have to do any of those things to succeed. And I would argue that we've found a better way. So, like, the best advice for a aspiring, like, winning gym owner, even if you're already a gym owner, whatever, the best advice would be, yeah, scrap some money together and come hire our asses. Because frankly, it's like, our rates are not that exorbitant, and you can cancel anytime. Like, you can leave whenever the hell you want. And so if it doesn't work, it's like, all right, you might be out a little bit of money, but it works for most folks that do the work. And it costs about the same as having a, like, shitty VA, for a month. So you can have literally this incredible pool of subject matter experts, of specific experts in each of the individual domains, whether it's ads, websites, etc. And you can get all of that for about the cost of, like, a shitty VA. It's like, well, the best advice would just be to hire our asses. Now, if you're not going to hire us for whatever reason, maybe you don't have the funds, whatever, I think the best piece of advice would be, number one, think about your reputation in the long haul, because it is very hard for a gym owner to say, oh, I'm going to burn through this market and then I've got to move to the town down the street in a year or two because I burned through this market and ruined my reputation here. Well, hopefully the people in the next town over don't know who I am, and I've changed the name of the business to try to keep my reputation, my nose clean, whatever it is. Like, that's a really annoying thing to have to do as any business owner, right? Let alone as a gym owner, where you've got a physical, boots on the ground, local presence in your market. So it'd be, think about your reputation for the long haul. Along with that, I would say that we actually need to get good at whatever the product is. And a lot of times when we're starting off as trainers, we've got that Dunning-Kruger effect going, and we think we're way better than we are. And we all suck when we start. And so while you're getting started, if you got like 0 clients or whatever, and you're not in a position to hire somebody like us, right, because you got 0 clients, then it's, lean on the power of free. Get as many people to try your thing for free as possible. Get good, train, service the hell out of them, get feedback, right, from the customers, from the people that you're training, continuously improve the product, and follow up on that loop over time until your reputation's so good. They're like, I'm getting referrals, I'm growing organically. Now that I'm good, it makes sense to go, dip my toe in the marketing front, into the marketing waters, if you will, and actually grow the thing, because I know we're good enough to do that now. And is it the fastest way to grow things? I don't know. Maybe not. But it's like, it served us well. It served me well in the gyms over the years. And I think I kicked off my gym in Minnesota was like big scholarship thing. So I offered to train, it was like 4 or 6 or whatever it was, local athletes for free. I did this big like scholarship giveaway deal for a year of free training, and it was actually free for a year. And guess what? I trained the hell out of those athletes. They ended up referring a bunch of people to me. The parents ended up referring a bunch of people to me, getting me connected in the local community, so on and so forth. And all of a sudden, those like 4 not paying clients for the year turned into a lot more of actually paying clients. Ended up training a lot of their parents and so on and so forth, because I leaned on the power, I leveraged the power of free, and then was really good at what I did and continued to work on getting better at what I did. Because, like, look, dude, like the market is getting better. It's gotten better. So it was easier to open a gym 15 years ago than it is now. The hurdle for what good looked like, for what people would tolerate from a gym, was lower 15 years ago than it is now. So, in 15 years ago, you open a CrossFit gym and your staff like doesn't wear shirts, and they show up sweaty, and they're figuring out the workout like 10 minutes after the workout was supposed to have started. They're late showing up to the gym, the doors are locked, etc. And people would just be like, yeah, it's CrossFit, or it's a warehouse gym, it's a boot camp, whatever. Like, this isn't to pick on CrossFit gyms specifically. But now it's like you've got a lot of really good operators that are operating more professionally. And so the bar for what acceptable is in any business is going to increase, right? It's going to get higher. To what acceptable looks like is going to get higher. It's going to get harder to achieve over time, and we have to be better. And so, I mean, I'd say, that constant improvement would be something that would be worthwhile for all of us, right? It's something I need to look in the mirror and look at our constant improvement. And hopefully my deep competitiveness and fear of insecurity keeps us continuing to try to get better, week after week, month after month, year after year, day after day. And again, I think that serves us well. I think it's a good piece of advice for anybody to take. So here's another good one on the hobby front. So I'm also really into guitar, and I think I do think there's some lessons there as well. So, I like strummed and screwed around playing guitar since high school, right, for years. And then my dad and my brother kind of run a little crappy band in Cotulla, Texas, where they play like 2 or 3 gigs a year, whatever it is. And a couple of years ago now, they were like, hey, you should play at this gig. It's going to be a family thing, and it's going to be like a reunion of the band, and we want you to play. And again, perspective taking, right? Trying to think about family and stuff like that. You see some of those like memento mori type calendars, and it's like, yeah, if you're 35 years old and your parents are in your 60s, and you see your parents an average of XYZ, number of times a year, like, you probably have less than 100 more times, that you're going to see your parents, right? Like that's just the reality of the situation. And so like, yeah, I'm going to be really nervous, like doing this guitar stuff. Like they're going to ask me to try to play lead guitar. Dude, I've never played lead guitar. And but it's like, this is something like I feel like my dad always thinks it's really special when he plays with me and my brother, even when we're like sitting around a campfire or whatever douchey thing, right, that we'll do. But how cool would that be for my dad to be able to have his sons, both of them, up there playing with him? And it's like, yeah, I'm gonna figure out this lead guitar stuff. And the lesson was, we were doing just kind of a hangout. It wasn't a gig. This was just like me and my dad and my brother playing for a handful of friends. And there's this lead that I'll play to a given song. It's a Willie Nelson song. Hashtag any country music fans in the audience? Didn't think so. Shit. But there's this lead, and we're playing like for literally like 10 friends or whatever, 10, 15 friends. And I butchered it. And my fingers were like shaking and stuff. Like I was nervous. And I'm not, in my circle, right, back home, like people don't look at me as like the nervous guy. And I was like sitting here as the fucking nervous guy. And I think the lesson with guitar is, I played for probably 15 years, if not more, and was at like the same level guitar wise from a skills perspective. And then they said, all right, like we're going to do this gig, like in front of like real people, like a group of people, like not the 10, 15 people campfire thing, but in front of like, a chunk of people. We're going to be hooked up on sound. We're going to be on a stage and everything else. And there is nothing that got me skilled up faster than knowing that I was going to be in front of those people. And the trick to like what I've found to be helpful for me, and I'm not a great guitarist by any means, but like my skill level over the course of the past like 2 years, I'm now doing 2 to 3 gigs a year, like in front of people on stage, what have you, has gone from like this for the past 15 years to all of a sudden going to like, if this is the really top level, whatever, like to that's probably a bad, like if this is the top level for those of you watching, it's gone from like way down here to really taking off in a relatively short period of time if you consider the entire time that I've been playing guitar. And it was the idea of, oh, you're going to have to do this for real right in front of people. And the other thing was, and the lesson, like the reason I thought it was a good thing to bring up, I saw my guitar over there and thought I'd bring it up, is, you don't practice it, as I think it's a Nick Saban thing. You don't practice a thing until you get it right. You practice the thing until you can't get it wrong. And I think from in terms of thinking about your business and from a sales perspective, is typically the thing that folks will think through, or like have come to mind when you think about rehearsing something. It's like, dude, I don't want you to practice the script or the framework or whatever it is that you're practicing from a sales perspective, the objection overcome, until you get it right one time. I want you to practice it until it's second nature, until you're fucking bored when you're doing it. So now, like, I can do that lead that I fumbled and got nervous and my, fingers like went all over the place and whatever, couldn't play a note. Like now I can do that, like the back of my hand, I can do it in my freaking sleep. And if we can take that idea of, oh, like it's going to take a lot more practice than you think, and you want to practice it until you can't possibly get it wrong, till it's second nature and you're bored doing the thing. Like if more of us took that mindset toward whatever thing we're trying to get better at, I think a lot of us would get a lot better, a lot faster at whatever the things are that we're trying to get better at. Back to business, how do you ensure your marketing strategies don't feel scammy or high pressure? So the first thing, how do we make sure our marketing strategies don't feel scammy, high pressure, what have you, is we just don't do them. So if you are hell-bent on running bait and switch, fake free challenges, right? Oh, free 6-week challenge, you come in and it's $3.99, $4.99, $5.99, whatever it is. Like, don't come to us. Now, if you did that because you were desperate and you felt like that was the only way to win, like, I feel you, right? We work with a ton of people who thought that was the only way to win because that was the only thing they saw marketed. And there were all these crazy success stories, right, of people who had made a bunch of money right away and whatever else. But so I don't hate you if you've run those in the past, but if you are hell-bent on running those, you just shouldn't work with us. Now, what we have found is we've got, at this point, dozens of different offers and strategies, et cetera, that you can win with and win big. And we've seen people win bigger than what they were winning doing like the sleazy shit, without ruining your reputation in your marketplace. So the first thing is we just don't run those offers. And then when it comes to how do we make sure the sales strategies and whatnot don't feel that way? Again, this goes back to our sales philosophy. Like I believe good sales, and any of our sales coaches, they feel like good sales is good coaching. And if we can take the mindset of, I'm not just trying to close you at all costs, right? I'm trying to actually coach the person on the other side. And sometimes coaching means challenging the person and helping them think in a different way that helps them make the decision to do business with you. If in fact it is the best decision for that prospect, the person sitting on the other side of the table, to do business with you, then it is your job, your duty as a coach, to coach them into that decision, right? To the best of your ability. However, there are also situations where you need to tell the prospect no, or you need to tell the prospect not right now, whatever it is. And our sales philosophies are, number one, good sales is good coaching. Number two, not all money is good money. And number three would be that I believe no long-term relationship, no good, successful long-term relationship was ever built on the foundation of anxiety and pressure. And so guess what? We don't fucking teach high anxiety, high pressure sales tactics when it comes to our sales coaching or when it comes to our marketing strategies. Because number one, you don't need them. I don't feel like they're that effective. And number two, it's like you can build a much better relationship with a person by having a good quality conversation. Do we still teach objection overcomes? 100%, but we do objection overcomes that are framed in such a way that you're not going to make the person on the other side of the table feel like a fucking idiot or feel like they're pressured into doing business with you or whatever it is. I want, and I've been fortunate enough that we've had great churn or great retention, I guess, if you will, in all the businesses that I've been involved in. And I think one of the cornerstones of that is we are going to teach sales, or we're going to have sales conversations that are built to have a client relationship. Like that's the first introduction into that client having a relationship with you for the long haul, right? Not for the 2-week testimonial, whatever it is, or for just like getting the sale. I don't care about having a client for 2 weeks. I care about having a client for 2 years or 2 decades or whatever it is. And so, our sales coaching, our process, our philosophy all revolves around that idea of I want clients that show up and they don't want to leave, right? I don't want somebody who signs up for a 6-week BS thing because you twisted their arm and you did your little verbal jujitsu and what have you and tricked them into, I guess I'll take a flyer on this fake free like accountability deposit, whatever the fuck. But really I'm thinking about the refund and I'm thinking about ways that I can prove you wrong throughout this process. Like I don't want clients like that. I want clients that are, already in the mindset to stick with you for the long haul. And our sales processes and philosophies and what we teach reflect that. Can you describe your process for crafting a gym's signature offer? So when it comes to building out offers or pricing or whatever else, a lot of folks will make the mistake of pricing in one of 3 ways, right? The 3 most common ways that people will price stuff is number 1, peek in the urinal, where it's like, I'm walking up to the urinal, I'm going to look over to the other side and see what the other guys do. And so they'll look at what other people in their market are charging and charge a little bit above or below that or whatever it is they think they should do, which is not an effective way to price your stuff. Number 2 is they'll just guess. And number 3 is the guru guess, where you have some guru based on a quick conversation, right? We're having this conversation now. And I say, like you should be charging $300 a month for this. That you might get lucky and be right on any number, right? On any of those 3 mechanisms for pricing your stuff. But you've also got a really big chance to be wrong. And so you cannot build, in my opinion, you should not be building a signature offer until you know what the actual financial model of the business looks like. And so the first step that we take with any gym that we work with is we're going to look at your model as a whole. And the way I would break that down is basically you've got your expenses, right? Your expense structure. You've got your capacity, right? How many people can you service in a given session? You have your number of sessions that you're running currently, right, in your space. And what those numbers will end up spitting out is an amount that you need to make per session based on your model. And then we figure out whether you're a large group facility or a small group facility, whatever it is, we figure out, okay, based on that model, we can expect this amount of attendance to sort of build around, if you will, and still be healthy. And so for a large group gym, we might want you to be able to make money at 40 or 50% attendance on average at all of your sessions. At a small group gym, that number can be a little bit higher. But the reality is, if you do anything other than actually looking at the model of the business that's working with you as a guru, coach, agency, whatever it is, if you do anything other than actually looking at the finances, looking at the capacity, looking at the number of sessions on the schedule, et cetera, and then making a decision on pricing based off of that, then you're being deeply irresponsible with your clients. You may be able to get them clients, but you could leave them in a situation, which is what we call black hole priced, and we see gyms come in with this type of modeling all the time, where no matter how full you get, dude, you're not going to, you can have a gym that's completely full and you can still be losing money. That'd be the definition of black hole price. And people, the gym was like, oh, there's no way I'm built that way. No way I'm black hole price. Like, you might be, right? Particularly when you consider what you need to make as the owner. So we build things off the expense structure. We build it off of what the owner wants to get paid. We build it with profit margin then included in that. And then we take the math and their model and basically figure out, okay, like we need to be making on average this amount per session at this percent attendance in order for you to hit all your profitability, income goals, et cetera, et cetera. From there, right, we know the minimum that we need to charge on average per client to have a healthy business, right? To give you the possibility as a gym owner of having a healthy, profitable business. Now we know the minimum. And then from there, we'll do kind of our marketing work off the back end or sales, whatever you want to call it, pricing, packaging, et cetera, where we might say, all right, you need to make 340 per month per client based on your model to be okay. Well, then we're going to try to find the appropriate buying decision that makes sense. So say you're at 340. Well, is anyone not going to buy at 340 or is anyone not going to buy at 350 that would buy at 340? Probably not, right? It's the same buying decision. You could probably make the same argument for 399 versus 340, right? The numbers are getting big enough to where that, kind of makes sense. And so we'll find whatever makes sense for you and your business, whether it's packaging it weekly or 28-day billing or whatever it is. We're going to find the most sort of digestible, the easiest to sell packaging for whatever your price point needs to be. We're not going to go below your minimum, but we're going to find whatever that appropriate buying decision is. And then we might throw some different things, together based on what you're offering at your gym, whether it's, do you do you have a really incredible nutrition program, or do you, have some one-on-one sessions that you're going to add, or specialty programs, or whatever it is. But we'll basically, from that point, we know the minimum that we need to make per client per month for you to be healthy based on your model. Then we're going to do, all right, you've got this thing. Can we throw this into it and price it at, $9.99 instead of, $5.99? Or can we throw this thing into it and price it at, $129 a week or $149 a week as opposed to $99 a week, whatever it is for you and your business. But we are going to start with the model and make sure the model makes sense first. We need to make sure that the business that you're building is actually built to spit out whatever it is you're trying to get out of it as an owner, because otherwise, what the hell are we doing? Why are we going to grow a thing? Why are we going to put the time and effort, energy, money, et cetera, into growing a thing that's not going to eventually get you what you want out of it? That just doesn't make sense, right? But that's the way 99.9% of the market runs their programs. It's just like, oh, you need to price it at 99. You need to price a 12-week thing at this or a 6-week thing at this, whatever it is. It just doesn't make sense. But nobody does it except for us, as far as I know. And so we need to make sure the model makes sense. Then we find the buying decision and kind of do the sales marketingifying of the offer, if you will, where we figure out, okay, what can we add to it? What can we do to make the offer as sexy as possible for your market and as easy to sell for you or your salespeople, whatever it is, on the back end. I don't know if that answers the question or not. That's all I got for today.